Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where you get the inside access to the best minds in the game. Each week, Chris has the privilege of chatting with top instructors, legendary players, course architects, and industry insiders. If you're looking to improve your game, gain a new perspective, or just hear some incredible golf stories, you are indeed in the right place.
You see, Chris, let me tell you something, I haven't spoken to a press man in my life that is knowledgeable, seriously, as you are. Never.
You do such a great job. It kind of makes me feel good all of a sudden.
You do so much for the game. You're so kind to all of us that are out there in the game. You know, we need more people like you in the game of golf.
Thank you for pressing play. Now, grab your clubs, step up to the tee, and let's get started. This is Next on the Tee.
Hi, folks, and welcome into this edition of Next on the Tee, where golf legends live and your game gets better. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and it's so great to have you back with me again. Over the next hour or so, we're going to hear from a major champion, a guy who is a U.S. Kids Lifetime Master Teacher, who also happens to be one-third of the famed Two Hoosiers and a Hong trio that I hope I get to see at the PGA Merchandise Show in January. Then in part two of the episode, another third of that trio is a guy who is a Golf Magazine Top 100 teacher and an instructor at one of the most exclusive clubs in our country. So exactly who are these three? Well, I'll tell you. Leading off is 2003 PGA Champion Shaun Micheel. You guys know, Shaun has been a huge part of this show since the very beginning. This is the 39th time that I've had the privilege of spending some time with Shaun. And this time around, we talk about how hard it is for guys to qualify to go out and play out on the Champions Tour. Winning a major isn't enough. You'll hear what Shaun is trying to do to qualify to get out there in 2026. We also talk about the things that the presence of LIV Golf has forced the PGA Tour into doing. And if Shaun is interested, if LIV Golf decided to start their own version of the Champions Tour. Plus, I get his thoughts on his alma mater, Indiana University, and the surprising football season they're having up in Bloomington. Following Shaun, I am joined by James Hong. Like I mentioned, James is a U.S. Kids Golf Lifetime Master Teacher, and we lean into that as we talk about the challenges that he faces teaching our young kids. In an Insta-gratification world, what are the challenges that he faces, plus the challenges with the expectations of both the kids and the parents? And what if those pair of expectations don't align? You'll hear about that from James. Plus, how does he handle it when kids are more interested in the technology and the data that they see on TrackMan, like their swing speed, ball speed numbers, over their actual ball flight? It can be a video game world out there, particularly for our junior players, so you'll hear all about that from James, who is fantastic, by the way. You're really going to enjoy him. Then be sure to come back for part two of this week's show, when another third of Two Hoosiers and a Hong joins me, this time one of the Hoosiers, obviously, Scott Monroe. I've always heard Scott referred to as Money Monroe. You'll hear how he got his other nickname, 99. Thank you, Jeff Smith. Scott has been a teaching professional at the Nantucket Golf Club for many years. Nantucket is a very exclusive club. It's where Jack Welch was a member. Bill Belichick is a member. Our good friend Reese Jones designed the course. So Scott gives us an inside-the-gates look at that golf course. It looks fantastic. I'd love an opportunity to play there, but at least we get a look at it through Scott's eyes. Scott also talks to us about how he teaches his junior players backwards, just like Eva Rogers talked about a few months ago. He starts with his kids out on the putting green and then gradually works them back to the tee. We discuss how many of the teachers in our game share their tips and instruction processes with one another. I think that is so wonderful in our game. They don't try to hide their secrets from each other, if you will. They share them with each other, and I love how they do that. I wrap it up with Scott by getting some drills that we can do at home now that it's getting colder outside. So we're going to be indoors. What can we do to keep our swings limber and keep the rust off our game? We'll get some tips from Scott on those things as well. So, folks, it's a jam-packed episode. I thank you so much for pressing play and taking the journey with me again this week. All right, but before we continue and get into the rest of the show, I want to start off by giving a shout-out to my great friends over at the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. TribLive.com is the leading news website for Western Pennsylvania with news around the clock. Pittsburgh Pro Sports coverage, a high school sports network, a podcast network, which you can find next on the T on. So go out and bookmark triblive.com or download the Trip Live app for free and stay up to date with all the news in Western Pennsylvania and this show. I also want to talk about our friends over at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company and Iron City Beer, a brand that I have loved my whole life and started drinking when I was 21 years old, of course. Whether you're a hacker or a scratcher, the secret to a successful day on the links is knowing when it's time to grab an iron, even if that means keeping it in the bag till the 19th hole. If it's been a while since you've reached for Pittsburgh staple beer, it's time to revisit Iron City. Thanks to their incredible new facility in Creighton, the best-tasting Iron City beer ever made is now available at a course near you. Iron City pairs well with any lie and sky and serves as a friendly reminder that there's always next round. And because it's never too early for chocolate, their double chocolate Bock is back for the season, and it's the perfect companion for a cozy winter evening. Check out all of their wonderful beers and their gift shop online by going to pittsburghbrewing.com. And this year, get ready to experience a game like never before at the Keep, the brand new Bill Bergen and Reese Jones co-designed course at Macklemore. Nestled high atop Lookout Mountain, the Keep offers breathtaking vistas that are made even more spectacular as the autumn colors paint the landscape in rich hues of red, orange, and gold. With its challenging layout and awe-inspiring views, every round here is an unforgettable adventure. Whether you're taking on the signature holes or just soaking in the scenery, the Keep is where your best golf meets nature's finest backdrop. So grab your clubs and join us up at Macklemore. The Keep is open and it's waiting for you. Okay, now next on the tee with me is a guy who has been a very important part of this show since he first joined me all the way back in May of 2014, and that is 2003 PGA Champion Shaun Micheel. As I have said many times, Shaun is by far one of the most underrated players in the history of the PGA Tour. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit for what he has achieved over the course of his career so far, because not only did he win the 2003 PGA Championship, very nearly backed it up at the 2006 PGA when he finished second to Tiger Woods at Medina, which many people tend to forget. He would go on to defeat Tiger that year in the World Match Play Championship in the first round 4-3 and finished runner-up to Paul Casey in the finals. Shaun has 20 top 10 finishes, 57 top 25s over the course of his career. He is one of only 3 players to ever record a double eagle in the U.S. Open, which he did back in 2010 at Pebble Beach. This week is the 39th time that I've had the privilege of spending some time with him. So yes, he's one of my all-time favorite guests, and I'm very glad he is back with me again this week right here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Shaun, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Chris. How's it going?
I'm hanging in there. You?
Yeah, just like we were talking earlier, just trying to catch up on all the things happening in college football. There's been a lot of news lately.
Indeed, and like we were talking off air, you cast a wide net. You're all over the place. LSU, University of Memphis, Indiana, of course. You got a lot of conferences covered, my friend.
I do. So I've been to LSU a couple of times this year with my daughter. You know, my wife's an alum, and my daughter is now she's a freshman down there. And so we've been to a couple of games. Went to a Florida game. Went to homecoming, South Carolina, and then, of course, I haven't been to an IU game yet, but I think I might be going up on November 15th for a game. And then, of course, Memphis. You know, we've supported the Memphis Tigers. Well, my grandfather-in-law, he's passed away now, but he bought tickets when the Liberty Bowl first opened in 1965. And so we've been going to Memphis games, for as long as, I can remember. And Stephanie is, she's an LSU undergrad. She's a University of Memphis law grad, and I went to law school there and everything. So, yes. So we support the Hoosiers. We got the Memphis Tigers. We have 3 conferences covered.
And you've been to games, but you haven't been to IU yet, and you guys could win a national title.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just. I think the scheduling, hasn't been great. I could have actually gone to Oregon. My sister lives in Eugene. But we were, where were we? I think we were in, at the LSU South Carolina game for homecoming. And then my sister's actually coming home tonight. I've not seen my sister in 5 years. So,
wow.
She lives in Eugene, and she's not a big football fan, but, she knows that Oregon's got a pretty good team. So anyway, but yeah, we have a sports household, so it's a lot of fun.
Shaun, we spoke very early on this year, had you on the show. I think it was back in January, but catch us up because there's a lot of things that have gone on with you in the 2025 golf season. Tell everybody how it's been.
Well, it's been relatively quiet, unfortunately. I haven't played a whole lot of golf. I've done a number of qualifiers on the Champions Tour. Interestingly, I wrote for quite a few exemptions this year, and I didn't get one. And I didn't play any Champions events, not one. It's the first time since I turned 50 in 2019, and I did play the PGA. I actually played okay there for a little while. Played the Senior PGA, and then I played the Senior Open Championship, and then which was at Sunningdale in London, and then I went and played an event in Scotland at Trump, Scotland. It was a kind of a flagship event for the European Senior Tour, known as the Legends Tour. Well, I'm exempt on that tour. Scheduling's not great. It's a lot of kind of one-off tournaments. As an example, in June, I think there was an event in Greece. Obviously a beautiful place to go, but I'm not going to Greece by myself. And there was no tournament prior there wasn't one after. So I'm not going to go on a holiday. I'm not going to fly to Greece just for 1 week by myself. So there's some of that. So it's been kind of a benign year really for me golf-wise. Now I practice every day and things like that, but even that's getting a little bit old. So I don't know if I just see the writing on the wall or what, but it's just getting tougher and tougher, as you know, and maybe we'll get into this a little bit. I think with the Champions Tour, kind of getting rid of the tour school and things like that. So competitive-wise, it's been a tough season because I haven't played much golf. And as a matter of fact, I would be willing to bet you that since I turned 50 in January of 2019, so we're 6 years into this thing. I've only played probably 50 golf tournaments, and 50 golf tournaments is what I would have played in probably a year and 2/3, when I was playing full time. So, it's frustrating, but I think, I still work hard. I still have the goals of getting out on the Champions Tour and finding my way to be exempt, but it's getting harder and harder. And, it's just, it's the place for the best players, and I'm not one of the best players. So it's kind of feast or famine for me right now.
So let's expand on that, Shaun, because for fans like me who wonder, how can a guy who won a major, nearly won a second one, have those 20 top 10s, 57 top 25s, not be exempt to play out on the Champions Tour? Explain to everybody why that is.
Well, I mean, the rules and the regulations have evolved really a lot. I mean, they've probably evolved since the inception in the early 80s of the Senior Tour. Right before I first came out, right before I first turned 50, maybe a year and a half, 2 years before, I had enough points. I had the major was counted as 5 points, and it took 5 points to get onto the Champions Tour. Well, somewhere in 17 or 18, I think it was 17, they changed the rules and basically only gave me 3 points for a major instead of 5. And then they added a category to where you had to win two times. And I'll just speak of like Todd Hamilton or Rich Beam, although I don't think Rich used his because he's got such a good gig going with Sky. But I'll just use Todd Hamilton. So when he came out, he didn't have enough career money. Matter of fact, I don't think he has even close to the career money that I have. But he won 2 events in 2004. He won the Honda Classic, and then that same year he won at Troon. So he won the Open Championship at Troon that year. I think everybody remembers, he beat Ernie Els in the playoff, and he used that hybrid. I mean, but they changed the rules. Now they're basically going off of career money, which now it takes $21 million to get on. The money has changed so much that, and I haven't been exempt since the end of 2011. So I haven't earned a lot of money, that would have accumulated enough to get me to be exempt. I don't have enough wins. I only have 1, even though it's a major. And my argument has always been to them is like, okay, if you don't find me, eligible to be exempt for, say the whole Champions Tour, fine. But I would think that I should be exempt for the major championships. That's just not the case. And there's a lot of changes going on the tour. I spoke to someone 3 weeks ago that I've known for a long, long time. He's a rules official, and there's about 73 people at the PGA Tour. There probably could be more that are taking a buyout from the tour, and they're basically retiring. Brian's one of them, and it's just I don't know why they're doing it. But anyway, it's just getting harder and harder. The new people that have come in. I'm speaking of this new sports group and Brian Rolap. They want to see a return on their investment. So it's really kind of a long story, but ultimately the Champions Tour does fall under the PGA Tour umbrella. As far as I'm concerned, I've written to a few players, talked to a few players on the advisory council, and guys ask me. I think I mentioned this to you last time. Ernie Els was the first person to ask me. Bernard Langer was the second, and Vijay Singh was the third. And they've all asked me this question in 3 months. They said, Shaun, why don't we see you out here? And, of course, it's pretty obvious, that I didn't have the career that they had. So I'm not exempt. I mean, it's just, I've already spoken enough as it is. I've kind of gone on and on about this. And essentially, and really the bottom line is that I don't fit within, I have a category, but it's not a category that gets me in the golf tournaments. Every week I'm 25th alternate, 28th alternate. As a matter of fact, I think I'm closer to getting into the RSM, which is a PGA Tour event, than I was the last full field champions event. So
wow.
that tells you something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I may not now. At one point I was 25th alternate for RSM, and I was 31st alternate for the tournament in Cary, the SAS tournament. But so I was 5 people ahead of the tour event than I was the champions event. So it's a head scratcher.
Yes, it is.
The bottom line is, there's only so much room. If you had a field of 156, there's going to be somebody at 157, kind of howling and screaming as to why they're not exempt. So I think for me, it's just a little bit frustrating that I don't get more opportunities either in some of the special events or just the major championships. I've done enough. I won once, played over 400 events, made well over 200 and something cuts. And I know it's not about that. I think people look at, the Champions Tour as being champions. Well, there are several players on that tour that never won on the PGA Tour. So, but they've done well on the Champions Tour. So that's just the way it is. But I'll say this one thing too, as I continue to run on. The interesting thing about the Champions Tour is it's so hard to get on. But if you're one of those players that's had an unbelievable PGA Tour career and then has had a relatively good Champions Tour career, and you've got $30-40 million, you can never be non-exempt. You're going to be exempt. If you shot 75 every day and finished 30th or 40th every week, you can never fall out. The only way that a player like that would fall out is if they get what we call the letter. And that is if you don't finish within 4 of the stroke average for the year, you get the letter that says, I'm sorry, you're no longer competitive and you don't get to play anymore. And so there have been several players have gotten that. Ben Crenshaw, Tom Kite. There have been a few guys that have gotten that letter just to kind of as their career, they tried to play and just weren't playing well. And so that's the only way some of these players would become non-exempt. So in one sense, they want it to be all about competition, but in the other sense, it's not really about competition because there are players that will never fall out unless they get that letter. Mm-hmm. So, it is what it is. And there's a lot more people like me than there are the people that get to play. But at the end of the day, you better play well. And if you don't play well enough, you don't get to play. And that's exactly where I sit. That's just the easiest way to say it.
So since you effectively have nowhere to turn outside of trying to Monday qualify for one of the very few spots, 2 or 3 spots, I think, on a Champions Tour event, mm-hmm. if LIV were to decide to create a Champions Tour of their own. Would you consider that?
I absolutely would. And it's funny that you said that, because 2 years ago I was at the Masters, and I go every year as an honorary invitee, and I actually took my son, and I was sitting there and I was talking to Steve Loy, who I've known since college. He was the coach at Arizona State, and he's obviously Phil Mickelson's agent. And I said, it'd be nice if Liv would start a Champions Tour. I was just joking, and they kind of gave me a wry smile, and that was about it. But that was about all it went to. And there are rumors going around that there have been some discussions with some players, although I was told that I won't say the word, BS is the word that I heard from a phone call that I had with someone. So I don't know if it's true or not, but the bottom line is, well, I said that kind of cavalierly. Let me just say this. I mean, I would definitely consider it. I want to play golf, and again, the Champions Tour is some about what you do now. There are definitely players that are playing great that maybe didn't have much of a tour career and that are deserving to be out there. But the majority of players got out there because of what they did on the PGA Tour. And so, I haven't done enough. And yet, I still want to play. I still want to compete. I'm still practicing every day. But it's hard to get any better in competition if I never get a chance to play. And I think that's kind of the hang up for me, I think, is that it's difficult to replicate. It's hard to replicate competition when you're just practicing. So, anyway, as I said, there are just a lot more players on the outside looking in, and but if Europe had a little bit better schedule, like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, I might consider playing a lot more of there, which I might do next year. They have a lot of things that they're working their way through too, and it's kind of hard to get on an airplane and fly to Greece, like I said, for 1 week. To then turn around and come back. And, Stephanie, my wife, she's like, you just have to invest in yourself, if you're going to play tournaments. And I said, you're right. I know I invested in myself when I was a young kid. I hopped on a plane, went to South Africa, I went to Asia, played the mini tours. I did all of that stuff. So I'm not sure that I want to spend $5,000 or $6,000 to go to, Greece. And I keep using that event just because I know that it's one of the ones that's a one-off. If I, spend $5,000 or $6,000, if I don't make my money back, plus there's an automatic 20 to 24% withholding tax. I don't think people understand. So I can promise you this: this is not a woe is me conversation. I'm just kind of letting you and your listeners understand kind of where people are, in at my age and where they are. And we all understand that you got to play well. If you win, and if you do what Jim Colbert said in a player meeting in the late 80s, play better. There's no doubt that is that. I mean, everybody, no matter what you do your job better. I mean, just do the best you can. Sometimes, your best isn't good enough in golf. And so those are just hard lessons that I'll have to live with. If I can't find myself to be exempt, I don't have anyone else to blame, but there are places that I can play. And I think that's probably what I'm going to have to do next year. I'm not saying I'm giving up on this Champions Tour kind of dream, if you will, but I need to play golf, and me talking about it and complaining about it doesn't solve any problems for me. It just creates more, than I need. So, and there's just been a lot of things happen off the course too, a lot of personal things, that I've had in my life that I'm just not over. I'm not sure I ever will be over. So some days are, I think I alluded to this last time, about what happened in my family, and
right.
That has taken a serious toll on me. I mean, there were a lot of days I didn't want to do anything. It was just difficult to kind of get my day going. I think if people understood exactly what it was, I think they would be as upset and kind of unspirited about life at times. And but again, you just gotta move on. I mean, this life is ticking away at 56. I mean, it's like the days are flying by. So I just I got to get my stuff together and get in some tournaments and earn my way back. I mean, that's the bottom line.
I know another great friend of the show, Clark Dennis, plays a lot over on that Legends Tour over in Europe, and I quickly took a look at the upcoming schedule. They've got 4 tournaments between November 7th and December 7th, so it looks like they've got some things going on there back to back. They haven't released their 2026 schedule. Is that something you do plan to take a look at once that 26 schedule comes out? And if they can have something that are more consistent every week or every other week, something along those lines that you would consider going over and playing a little bit more over there since you are exempt on that tour?
Absolutely. So there's an event coming up in Spain, on the east coast of Spain. Again, it's a one-off, and then you've got Cambodia, you've got Vietnam, and you've got Mauritius, all 3 kind of back to back. And, obviously difficult places to get to, lots of, kind of travel to get over there. I mean, not that the Europeans have it any easier. I mean, coming from London to Vietnam and Cambodia is a long way. So, those are things that I'll have to definitely think about. I think with my daughter being in college, I've definitely enjoyed kind of her last part of high school, definitely her getting her moved in. There were a lot of things that I really wanted to do because I missed so much of the things that they were doing as young children. And, so some of this golf, I'm making it sound like I can't get in and blah, blah, blah. And some of these things I've chosen to do. And so, but next year, I think, I definitely will look to play more. I know, there's an event that I play in every year in April that's in Barbados. Actually, the Senior PGA Championship is going to be in April next year. So that's something that's changing. But yes, Clark and I are good friends. I've met a lot of the players on that Legends Tour over there. I've grown up with. I played some on the tour, some in Asia, some on the European tour. So I know all of them. It's just a matter of kind of finding a place where there's a couple, 2-3 weeks in a row where I can go over there and, without just flying over for 1 week, battling the jet lag, and then turn around and come right back. Mm-hmm. It's not like I'm just traveling from, Tennessee to Florida. I mean, it's quite an ordeal to kind of get over there, but I've done that my whole life. I don't mind airplanes. I don't mind the long travel. But the return on investment needs to be there as well.
For sure. All right, so let's talk about some happy memories because you have been witness to some other legendary players and their history. I want to go back to the 2004 Masters. You finished tied for 22nd, I believe, that week, but it was also Mr. Palmer's final Masters appearance. Do you remember the King and what it was like to be around Mr. Palmer and be on the golf course as he finished up his Masters career?
Well, I do remember because I was playing with Colin Montgomery and Jay Haas, my first Masters, and they were complaining that it took us 6 hours to play. It was cool though for me. I didn't care, and I really don't care if it takes 6 hours really either. I like being out there.
And weren't you in the group behind him actually?
I was right behind him. Yes, and he got a standing ovation on every tee box and every green, and it was quite something to behold. Really, it's been so long ago now, but yeah, it was really cool to see that. I never really got to know him very well. I had done a couple of outings where I was around him and he was telling stories and things like that. But I didn't really know him that well, like some of the other guys, like, Billy Andrade and, Dickie Pride. I mean, a lot of these guys that are from Orlando and that hung out at Bay Hill really got to know him very well. But yeah, it was, to play behind him and in that, and, to play with Seve in his last Open championship. I mean, yeah, so there were some pretty cool things that I've been kind of part of and been around in this great game. And sometimes, your own game takes a back seat to acknowledging just the greatness of golf history. And, those are memories that stick with me as much as some of the good things I did.
Speaking of some of the good things that you did, I want to touch on one of the tournaments, speaking of international golf, that you won back in 1998, and that was at the Singapore Open. And that event has a really rich history. There are a lot of former major champions that also won there, Adam Scott won there. Angel Cabrera won there. Sergio won there. Heck, even Matt Kuchar won there back in 2020. But take us back to 1998. What do you remember about winning the Singapore Open?
Well, the first thing is I really owe a lot to Charlie Wee and to my former manager, Richard Growlitzer, because I had lost my card in '07, was kind of down in the dumps. I'm like, golly, why can't I figure this out? You know, it was the second time I had my card and just didn't play well. And both Richard and Charlie convinced me to give Asia a shot. So I flew all the way over to Kuala Lumpur. Actually was in this place called Johor Bahru, and had to do 2 qualifying sites. Even though I played the tour, they're like, well, you know, you still need to go to 2. So I played well enough to compete, was playing in some really unusual countries, but was playing well. At the end of the year, I finished 3rd on the order of merit. And, you know, Singapore was in August, hot, fun course to play. I played great. I think I was 16 under. I think I made 18 birdies and 2 bogeys, which was, you know, pretty good for 72 holes. But I've not been back since. You know, I never got back.
Is that right?
Yeah, I never got back. I just, in '99, I got my Nike Tour card, and it was basically on tour from 2000 all the way through until I was non-exempt. And so I never got a chance to go back. It just didn't work in the schedule. You know, the Singapore Open, you know, it was kind of different dates and would move around a little bit and everything. So I've never been back, but I definitely would like to go back. But it was a huge part of me, you know, getting back through tour school that year and at least getting my Nike Tour card, where then I finished 9th on the order of merit in the Nike Tour and then got my tour card that way. So, you know, my travels to Asia were incredible. Some of the greatest memories of golf. It's kind of where, you know, people talk to me as like a journeyman pro. And, you know, I look at that as really an incredible time of my life, really almost a badge of honor, I think, to be able to compete and play in some of those events. So it was a tremendous asset for me to play over there. And you know, I played well and I look kind of goofy in that hat, but that they put on me, the white Ericsson Singapore Open hat. But I think, I can't remember if I made $80,000 or $90,000. One of those. It was at that time was, you know, the biggest check I'd ever made. So it kind of set me on a path to good things.
Shaun, before I let you go, remind our listeners how they can stay up to date with you, all the great things you're out there doing, hopefully getting out onto the Champions Tour more in 2026 or going over on the Legends Tour and playing. How can we stay up to date with you online or on social media?
Yeah, you can find me at my Twitter page. I still call it Twitter. Probably should call it X. Is, you know, Shaun Micheel PGA, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook every once in a while. But you know, that's where you can find me. You know, I interact with people. Got a conversation with somebody the other day about something. So you know, I'm always open to talk and, you know, all that type of stuff. So you can find me there.
Shaun, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your schedule to come back and be a part of the show. Like I say, this is the 39th time I've had the privilege of spending some time with you. You were a huge part as this show got started back in 2013 and a regular guest at one point. And I hope we can get to spend some more time together as you go through the rest of this year and obviously through 2026.
Well, I appreciate it, Chris. You know, you've I didn't realize it'd been 39 times, but you've obviously grown your listeners, your audience very well. You have a great show. You have a lot of great guests. I enjoy listening, and I'm happy to be part of it and hopefully just kind of bring some insight into life as a professional golfer, some of the great things and some of the kind of frustrating things. But I love being a part of it.
I love having you as part of it. Take care, my friend. All the best in your family. I look forward to catching up soon.
Absolutely, Chris. Y'all be good. Thank you.
See you, Shaun. That's the great Shaun Micheel, folks. Again, at Shaun Micheel PGA is where you can find him out on X. And look, a guy that like I said at the top, and I mean this sincerely, very underrated. I mean, the guy won a major, nearly won a second one, and then all the top 25, 57 times in the top 25, won the Singapore Open. We just touched on that. And then just one of the great people you get to meet in life. He's just a wonderful human being on top of all of that. So I am rooting very hard for him to get out there, you know, maybe if he can qualify or get some exemptions to get out onto the Champions Tour. And then, since he is exempt out there on the Legends Tour, and that's a wonderful tour over there. Clark Dennis has been on the show many times talking about what a great events that they have over there and how much he's enjoyed being a part of that tour. So hopefully we get to see Shaun playing some really great golf as we end 25 and moreover as we look ahead to 2026. Coming up next is a guy who is a U.S. Kids Golf Lifetime Master Teacher, one of Golf Digest's best teachers in the state of New York, and 1/3 of the fame group that you heard Jeff Smith and I talking about, Two Hoosiers and a Hong. James Hong is coming up next. Before I bring him into the show, though, I want to remind you about our friends over at On Point Golf and their out-of-this-world On Point Golf Ball Marker. And if you don't have one, folks, you really need to go check it out at onpointgolf.us. Get the #1 ball marker in the game of golf. On Point is the only 3-dimensional ball marker out there, with alignment technology and a removable coin that is approved to use according to the rules of golf. As you know, putting is all about line and pace. Mark your ball with On Point, engage with your 3-dimensional ball marker, and have more confidence in your line, execute the putt, and you're going to lower your scores. Do what the likes of Jim Furyk, PGA professionals, and amateurs alike are doing now. They use the #1 ball marker in golf and they lower their scores. You know Ken Duke and Thongchai JD. They won for the first time on the PGA Tour in 2023, and they were using an On Point ball marker. Get yours at onpointgolf.us and make more putts. And oh, by the way, you can also customize the removable coin for any club, event, or corporate outing. They make really great tee gifts and custom products. That's also going to help lower your score. I use On Point ball markers. Mine is black and gold, 3D black golf ball with a gold line down the middle to help me line up my putts. It's like having a 15th club in my bag. It's helped my game. Why wouldn't you let it help yours? Again, onpointgolf.us. See what I'm talking about. Order yours today. I also want to remind you about our wonderful friends over at Squares Golf.
So Nick here. What if there was a golf shoe embraced by hundreds of thousands of golfers, celebrated for its stability, comfort and distance? What if this shoe earned the title of most technologically advanced golf shoe by Sports Illustrated? And what if the company behind that shoe spent the last year perfecting a brand new category of golf footwear? Well, the what if is here. Introducing the all-new Pro S2 LT by Squares, a new class all of its own, the perfect blend of lightweight comfort and stable performance. You'll notice the difference. Change your shoes, change your game. Squares.
Also, a warm welcome to the Next on the Tee family, to our new friends over at Sunday Swagger. Look, folks, if you're tired of boring golf clothes, Sunday Swagger is changing the game with their boldest collaboration yet. Officially licensed Guinness apparel that brings iconic style to the golf course. Their premium polos, button-ups, and quarter zips feature 4-way stretch and moisture-wicking fabric that moves with you. Whether you're crushing drives or raising a pint at the 19th hole, their fall collection blends Guinness's legendary heritage with Sunday Swagger's eye-catching designs, plus accessories like head covers, towels, and even custom beer sleeves to keep your beverages chilled while you're out on the golf course. With styles for men and women available online and in select stores, you're guaranteed to turn heads and spark conversation. Visit SundaySwagger.com and join the Sunday Club for exclusive drops and member benefits. Sunday Swagger, polos with personality. Okay, now next on the tee with me is James Hong. James is the Director of Instruction at Harbor Links Golf Course in Port Washington, New York. He is also a U.S. Kids Golf Lifetime Master Teacher and a TPI golf professional. He's also one of Golf Digest's best teachers in the state of New York. Golf Magazine named him one of their top 100 teachers to watch. He has also been named by Golf Range Association of America as a top 50 growth of the game teaching professional, and I'm very excited. He is back with me again this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Honger, thanks for coming back on the show.
How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, James, I want to jump right in and talk about coaching today's junior players. We've got a lot of young, talented players coming into our game. Most kids and parents are great, but I have to imagine sometimes you get a parent that's convinced that their child is going to be the next Tiger Woods, the next Nelly Korda. What do you find as the kids' expectations as they come to you, and how do those expectations align with the expectations that their parents have?
Yeah, I think more and more in this Instagram, TikTok age, you start to see that, everyone wants instant gratification. They're not willing to understand that there are stages to go through. It's I was just talking to someone today about it. It's kind of like you're in third grade and all of a sudden you want to be in grad school in 5 minutes. And people are looking for shortcuts. And a great example is, I see some of these forums on social media for parents. They're like, they're trying to find out how to get their kids to hit the ball further, which is understandable. I get it. But when your child is 7 years old and you're wondering if the TaylorMade or Callaway driver is better for them, it's like you're kind of looking at some fantasy there, right there.
Yeah, so let's expand on that, right? Because you were telling me that along those lines that sometimes you've got kids showing up with adult-sized drivers. I mean, is that because they're so long? I mean, they're probably taller than the kid. I mean, at the end of the day, is that because parents don't know any better? They don't know that they need junior clubs or to get those cut down? Is that because, hey, he's got a longer driver, he'll hit it further? Why would a parent have a child show up with a driver bigger than they are?
Yeah, and one point that I try to get across, it's like I don't mean to make it sound like the parents are evil. They're trying to do the best for their child. I mean, the most important thing in any parent's world are their kids, and so they're just looking out for the best. And it's basically just trying to educate them on how to do that better. And so it's like you said, these kids are showing up with adult drivers that are as big as them, if not bigger. And in those situations, when I tell parents about this, they're like, "Oh, we thought he or she will just grow into it." It's like, well, you don't grow into them; you grow out of them. And it's not like getting a T-shirt or something like, or a pair of sneakers. And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll just grab a flag stick with the flag still on it, and I give it to a parent, and I say, "How about you swing that and see what it feels like?" And they go, "Wow, that's really difficult." I said, "That's exactly what your kid's about to feel with that driver. It feels the same way." And the same thing with when they say, "Well, can I cut them down?" And it's like, well, you've already bought your 8-year-old child a regular flex driver, or a hand-me-down regular flex driver. You cut it down, that thing's going to be like a quadruple X shaft. It's I always bring up the example of, if you're in a Chinese restaurant, you took the chopsticks and started breaking them in half. At some point, you get to a point where you can't break that piece in half anymore because it feels too stiff. Now, the wood didn't get stiffer. It's just it gets to a point where you can't do it, and that's what's happening if you cut down a shaft too much for a child.
James, as you alluded to a moment ago, everything today is about getting more swing speed and distance. When I was a kid, the focus was on hitting it straight and then far. Now what I hear is the opposite: hit it far and we'll work on straight, which I don't understand because, as the great Harvey Penick used to say, the woods are full of long drivers. Is one of those methods wrong? Are they both half right? How do you approach the swing speed and distance epidemic?
Yeah, and again, educating both the student and the parent is that you're trying to gain more speed, but it's not so much if like whatever you're swinging when you swing as fast as you can. That's not your game speed. What you're trying to do, it's a difference between training physically versus playing. When you're working on speed, it's that your body handles that speed. Can it handle that? And if it can't, then don't do it. So if you're like an older child, let's say a 16-year-old can swing at 125 miles per hour. God, oh my goodness. It's that doesn't mean they're swinging at 125 miles per hour at an AJGA event or whatever they're playing at. They're probably swinging more like 106, but it's comfortable for them. So you're just getting used to it. But again, going back to speed training, you're really, if you're thinking that's the be all end all, you're really, like you said, learning how to not be able to control the ball, but also you're risking a lot of serious injury, either immediate injury or down the road.
James, along those same lines, because all players, not just juniors, have become so enamored with TrackMan and all the data points. I've talked to so many of your peers who's junior players, they make a swing, and instead of looking up to where the ball is going, they immediately look down at TrackMan to see what their ball speed is, their swing speed is, and all the other data points that we can get from TrackMan. Meanwhile, the ball, it's going all over the place. I mean, 200-mile-an-hour ball speed means nothing when the ball ends up in the pond or in the trees. It's like golf has become more of a video game, and ball speed and distance have become milestones. Unlike when I was growing up, you were trying to break 100, break 90, break 80, whatever the score was you were chasing. Is that stunting players' progress? Is the natural evolution of the game going this way, or is that really doing a disservice, especially to young players?
Yeah, I think when you're using the launch monitors like a TrackMan or a quad to dictate what you're supposed to be doing, you're in trouble. They're just mainly tools for you to see what direction you're headed in, if you're headed in the right direction, but they shouldn't be the be all end all. So I know a lot of times when I'm teaching both outdoors and indoors, but definitely indoors, I'll actually turn certain things off, or I'll remove the tiles from the screen so the student can't see it. And I've even done it to the point where I'll turn off the tracer. So they're in effect hitting into a blank screen and just focusing on what it is where we should be working on. And if, let's say, it's club path, I might put that one tile up and say, you're normally at this number, and we're just trying to get it more towards that number. We don't have to be exact, just something closer to that. And then as we're working on things, hey, look at that, see how it's getting better. And then we start to kind of see if that's helping or hurting. Then maybe I'll be looking at the tracer, but not the player. And if we're outdoors, it's exactly what you said. It's like, what's the ball doing? Let's check out the ball flight. Is that better or is it not better? And I think what we also forget to ask the student is, everything might look better, the numbers might be better, but to be able to ask the player, do you think you'll be able to do that, is so important. Because without asking that player thinks that's the be all end all, I should be able to force myself into that mold. And if I can't, I must not be a good player.
James, Jack Nicklaus is my hero, and he always used to talk about that. Even though he worked with Jack Grout in the off season, once the tour season began, he was in charge of his own golf swing and understanding how to make corrections if he wasn't playing well, because there was obviously no data back then. We no longer dig it out of the dirt like they did back in the day. Are today's players able to problem solve? Can young players, and I'm guessing juniors cannot, but as you see players progress through age and age groups, are they able to problem solve when things are going wrong with their golf swings?
I think the better players are, because they understand that. Now, whether that's through their upbringing or that's through good coaching, that's the environment that they're in. But yeah, it's like I've noticed that when I see really good players, juniors, and they're doing something, they come up with the solution. And it may be a Band-Aid, or it may be something that works long term, but in either case, they were Sherlock Holmes. They figured it out. And I've asked students, it's like, well, what did you figure out? And they tell me, and I was like, wow, see, how did you figure that out? Well, I thought about this and I realized it was this, and I remember that. And it's like, yeah, exactly. Remember, it's experience. And so that's something that's severely lacking, is the ability to observe what's going on in that moment that they're working on something or practicing something, putting it in the storage banks, and then referring back to that in those moments. Like you're saying, it's like, what adjustment do I have to make here?
So let's take that a step further. What about dealing with adversity during a round or in a tournament? Are they able to deal with that, or are they lost when they have a bad hole or two because they don't spend enough time out there actually playing the game?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. Dealing with adversity is so important. And it's, they again, another thing that they have to learn. It's not just golf swing technical. It's the mental side of it. That, I think, is basically the new frontier for any kind of junior or adult golf development, is learning how to deal with things like adversity. And the things that I always try to get across to people is, golf is a game of failure. It's not of success. It's if it's supposed to be easy, then the golf holes the pins would be 6 feet wide, and there'd be no such thing as bunkers, etc. The fairways would be like runways at airports. It's meant to learn how to manage failure.
So I want to go back to something you were talking about earlier, because instructors who are as accomplished as you are, I'm guessing you've got a structure and a process for how players progress through different stages of development. And in conjunction with our short attention spans, I imagine that there are students and parents that want to skip, go from step 2 all the way to playing out on tour and being able to play like Tiger Woods. They're looking for you to provide them the cheat code so that they can get there. But are you able to get them to buy into the fact that there are no shortcuts to getting there? Because as you mentioned, we're in a very short attention span, 140 character world nowadays. Can you get them to be patient?
Yeah, I think it's like you would do with your own child. You have to keep repeating yourself. So I'm constantly saying the same things over and over again, or I'm saying the same message in different ways. When I'm on social media, I'm looking for little snippets that other players, other coaches have that are basically saying the same thing, so that I can send that along and say, see, it's not just me making things up as I go. This is for real. And I think just showing them the work behind the scenes, again, like you're saying, the 140 characters, the minute video, people think that's all it took. And they don't realize that what they're seeing is the culmination of weeks, months, even years of work that was done behind the scenes. And they're just seeing the fruits of the labor. And so trying to get that point across is it's difficult. And yes, sometimes there's some blowback from parents or juniors, but I think the best thing I've done in recent years is telling them to go to a tournament and observe the players. So we're lucky in that we had the Ryder Cup here recently. And so a lot of my juniors went to watch them, and I told them all, go watch them on the range and see how they warm up. And they all came back with that nod of the head going, I see what you get now. It's like, yeah, they're not hitting 5,000 balls. They have a purpose behind each swing, each ball that they hit. And some of the things, small swings, slow swings, or whatever it is we're doing ourselves, they're seeing the pros do it. And I think that's getting the message across to them as well.
So is that mentality of, you need to get me there faster, I don't want to have to put in all this hard work, can't you just implant some AI thing in me so that I can get on with my lofty expectations? Is that going to have a negative impact down the road on the future of what our game is going to look like?
Yeah, I think if we don't do anything about it, it definitely will, because as we all know, the game is so frustrating. And so that I think that we have to be careful sometimes when we talk a lot about, oh, let's get more juniors involved. Let's make it fun. Let's make it fun, which I have no problem with. I try to make it as fun as possible. But at the same time, it has to be fun and challenging, because what starts to happen with these kids is they catch the bug. You've got them going because it was fun. And then now when they start to take the game a little bit more serious and they see how difficult it is, they quit because, oh, it's not fun anymore. It's like, I didn't know it was going to be like this. So if you're showing them that it's fun and challenging and rewarding because you've solved the problems that are set up in front of you, the obstacles that you have to overcome, that in itself draws more of them in long term.
Are you actually seeing a drop off in the number of players who have that focus, have the determination to want to put in all the work in order to reach what their goals are and in order to be good?
Yes, I have. I was actually speaking to another coach in the area who has a lot of juniors that play at the high school level, competitive level, even trying to get into college and play. And I asked him the other day, have you noticed that you have had a drop off in the kids that seem to be able to handle those things? And he said, absolutely. He said the number of kids that he has that want to play seriously, that hasn't dropped off. And I haven't seen a drop off there either. It's the kids that you can see that are willing to learn these things or to understand these things, to take the extra step. That group has dropped off. So what ends up happening is they reach a certain level and they can't get beyond that just simply, but that doesn't mean they're not good enough. It just means they're not willing to do that extra work or to take those extra steps. And I'm not talking about hit more balls. I'm talking about, like you said, play a little bit more, understand what it takes, problem solving, and accepting the results, accepting what you're seeing, the adversity, and learning how to handle that and learning from it.
James, switching gears just slightly to the rest of us, as we get deeper into fall, winter's right around the corner, you've got some wonderful practicing tips for in the house, whether it's in the basement, the garage, or the hallway. where you've set up some paper plates inside and a pool noodle outside to help us learn how to land a chip at different distances. Do you mind resharing that tip with everybody?
Yeah. So those kind of things for chipping, it's learning how to control where the ball lands. And a lot of it too is the softness of impact. What I see with a lot of players, both adults and juniors, is we stab at the ball and people are afraid of hitting it too far, or they scull it over the green or something. And sometimes also what happens is when I show someone a target like a pin, I ask them, where do you want this ball to land when you hit this chip or pitch shot? And so many people say right by the hole. And it's like, okay, well, what do you think is going to happen to the ball once it lands on the green? And there's this kind of moment of, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I don't know. It's like, well, now you know why your ball keeps rolling off the back of the green or rolling to the back of the green, because it's like you're landing the ball at the hole. And so working on that, and then they start to talk about how, oh my goodness, that's so soft. I don't know if I can hit it that soft. Well, let's work on that. And that kind of again, those are the steps that I'm talking about, the problem solving. And it takes a few minutes, but once they get it, they're like, wow, that's pretty cool. I know I can do it now. But that seems to be that 5-minute step that a lot of juniors don't want to take because they think, quote unquote, that's so hard to do. And it's like, well, it took you all of 6 balls or 6 swings. So what's so hard about that? But again, it's that instant gratification. What's the app that solves the problem?
Yeah. James, just a couple more before I let you go. And as you know, Scott Monroe is up next with me. What's your favorite Scott Monroe story?
Oh, boy. You know what's funny? We were together at the Top 100 Summit, and he was showing we were talking about firearms and stuff like that, and he was I forgot what it was that I was holding, some tool or something like that, and he kind of looked at me like, really? That's how you think it should be held? And he gave me a lesson on how to hold a firearm. And it was funny. It was like, so this is what it feels like to be a beginner in golf or something like that. But it's like that for some reason seems to stick in my mind more than anything else with Scott. And and also, the self gratification. I hold him in such high regard in terms of instruction and as a person. And we were doing something, and he looked at me, he goes like, well, what would you do? And I told him what it was. And he looked at me and he was like, that's amazing. It's like, I would have never thought of that. I got to try that. And just that moment was such a fulfilling moment that he would turn around. Somebody that I hold in such high stature would look at me and say, that's really cool. I like that. That's almost like getting a badge of honor and getting that sort of this, yeah, you're one of us kind of feel to it.
That's awesome. And speaking of guys with high stature, Jeff Smith wanted me to pass along that it's okay to shave the goatee.
Oh, I shaved half of it off already, so that should make him half happy.
James, before I let you go, remind our listeners how they can stay up to date with you and the great things that you're out there doing, whether they're doing it online or they're doing it over social media.
Sure. On social media, whether it's Facebook, X, or Instagram, it's at James Hong Golf, and you could see everything there. And yeah, I mean, and all my contact information would also be on my social media. So it's easy to get in touch with me or see some of the stuff that I do right there.
Well, James, it has been great having you back as part of the show again this week. I sure hope you'll come back soon and share more of your insights, your stories, and your tips with us, because you're fantastic, my friend.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me on. Great honor.
Take care, James. All the best to you and your family. We'll catch up soon.
You too. Take care.
You too. That's a great James Hong, folks. A great guy. Be sure to give him a follow all over social media, Instagram, X, Facebook, at James Hong Golf, like he mentioned. Also, be sure to check him out at Harbor Links on their website, which is just very simply harborlinks.com/instructors. But a few years ago, Jeff Smith said to me, look, you got to have Honger on the show. One of the most talented guys that you're going to run across. And I'm sure glad he made that introduction and he made that suggestion, because as you heard through the course of the conversation, You want to find a guy that is going to do the right thing with your junior golfers, with someone that's going to do all of the right things, get him on the path. And also, as you probably took away from, he's not going to oversell this thing, right? He's not going to tell you can get from being a beginning golfer to becoming Tiger Woods or Nelly Korda in a couple of weeks. He's going to shoot straight. He's going to help you get there. He's going to have a plan. And if as a parent or if as a junior golfer, you're willing to stay on that plan and do the work that's involved, you're going to get there because Hunger is just that good. And I can't thank him and Jeff enough for being a part of the show. And like I say, Jeff, for the recommendation. We'll get James back on the show again before too long. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on part 1 of this week's show. My sincere thanks again to Shaun Micheel and James Hong for joining me. Come back for part 2 now because Golf Magazine Top 100 teacher Scott Monroe and another third of Two Hoosiers and a Hong will join me. And look, Scott is fantastic, right? You don't get to be a Golf Magazine Top 100 teacher on accident. We'll delve into his career. He's a guy that played his college golf down at Georgia Southern. He spends his summers up at Nantucket Golf Club, one of the most exclusive clubs in the country. You'll hear about that. Plus, in the wintertime, you can find him down in Boca Raton, Florida. So we'll get into all of that. We'll get into why his nickname is 99. Love the story. Thank you, Jeff Smith. Plus, a whole lot more with Scott. Again, one of the most incredible teachers in the country. So looking forward to having Scott back as part of the show. Folks, I hope you'll come back and be a part of it as well. I cannot thank each and every one of you enough for being the greatest supporters in the history of podcasts, bar none. I appreciate each and every one of you so very much. Until next time, hit 'em straight, my friends.
Thanks for joining Chris again this week on Next on the Tee. We hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we did. Please share the show with your golf buddies and be sure to follow it on Trib Live or your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Thanks for pressing play and being part of the journey. We'll see you next week, right here, where the best minds in golf share their stories.